don't remember. At home, I believe. I don't remember. At home, I believe.
Welcome everyone to another video. It has been quite some time, but this one is surely worth it. The lovely Lane Compton has generously agreed to do a second interview with me. We're going to be talking about his projects and other things that he's been working on. You guys might know him as the character John Donovan from Mafia III. So sit back, relax, it's going to be quite a long one. There is timestamps in the description if you just want to skip through the questions. And yeah, enjoy! So it's been about 4 years actually since we last spoke.
Wow.
Long before the apocalypse had set upon us. Aside for training for the end of days, are there any exciting projects that you've been working on recently?
Well, of course, because we're all in lockdown, the industry is pretty much shut down.
Yeah.
There were things in line before that, and I hope that when everything gets lifted, we can resume those. But none of them are finalized and also are in pre-production, so I can't really disclose what they are, but one of them is another game.
Yeah.
And possibly a film as well.
Oh, wow, okay.
But since all this started, I've been more or less just at home trying to work on my own stuff.
Oh, your own projects?
Yeah, just trying to stay active, stay creative.
Okay. Is there anything in particular that you've been doing?
Well, yeah, writing a project that would involve one person in one location.
Okay.
Because that's all I've got to work with,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
But you know, doing some research, taking a look at the other films that have done that, and what made them work and what didn't, and trying to create a storyline that I also feel compelled to tell within that.
Right, yeah.
Trying to not make it just a quarantine tale, you know,
exactly,
but something that would have some sort of lasting effect.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard not to want to reflect on these things as we're all in it, you know, and taking a look at what that means. Where are you again? I forget exactly.
I'm in England right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
how are things there?
More lax?
It's very lax here at the minute, yes. They've literally just today, it's a 1 meter rule. We have all the bars and everything opening in a couple of days, and you know, obviously that's quite concerning. But what's going on there? Where you are?
Yeah, you know, things are starting to open. I'm in the state of California,
Mm-hmm.
and state by state they have their own rules and regulations. Some have been more lenient.
Yeah.
Around the Memorial Day weekend, which is like one of the last weekends in May,
Yeah.
is when things really started opening up in different states. And some of those states that did open are now reclosing or making more restrictions.
Oh, again?
Yeah, tightening things up. We're seeing quite a surge here at the moment.
Oh, really?
So here in the state of California, but across the country, you know, with the opening of Memorial Weekend, but also all of the protesting that has been going on, of course, is,
oh yes, I've heard about this. Yeah.
put people in a lot of proximity, close proximity, which I'm all for.
Exactly, yeah.
The movements that are happening, it's a tricky balance, you know, and
Exactly.
you hear folks say that they'll keep protesting because they'd rather do that, and if they get sick, so be it. It's for a good cause. And
it's definitely
you know,
tricky.
it's a tough balance. Yeah, it is. I've been to a few of the rallies, and you know, wearing the mask and trying to distance as much as possible.
It's very difficult to distance yourself, though. You know.
Absolutely.
Especially in public in those sort of areas, it's not easy to distance yourself because you're in such close proximity to all these people. So another question I've got for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you get aspiring actors and they struggle for years and just never ever make it. So how did you get into acting professionally as a career instead of, you know, just aspiring? And
well,
how did that start?
Yeah, I appreciate that thought. I have to say that I still am aspiring as well. You know, there's
You think?
Oh, certainly. Certainly. I'm far from quote unquote making it. But I guess in my mind, it's what does that even really mean? You know, at what point do you say, oh, I've got it here? I think at that point you'd be looking for the next goal, the next thing forward.
There's always something more.
Certainly is. But you know, I'm still in a point where I'm not fully supporting myself with acting. You know, and as an artist, you know, if you're an actor and you're doing it, well then sure, you're a professional, I suppose. But as far as how it started, you know, moving to LA after school, that's where you know, it's New York or LA in the States here as far as the cities that had the most at that time. A lot of cities have opened up and done a lot more work, but at the time, you know, some 15 years ago, it was LA or New York, possibly Chicago, but and fortunately getting cast in a few shows and starting to develop some type of resume so that other people felt I was worthy and valuable of being cast in. But yeah, you know, I've been fortunate to have consistent work over the years. I think I probably have my blinders on to the fact that I have been fortunate and have had work because you know, I'm always seeking more and trying to find that next thing, the ability to, you know, be consistently working on a professional level at a rate that I could financially support myself just doing that, and be able to move from project to project is the ultimate dream. And you know, maybe some of that is just a mindset shift, and some of it is right time, right place.
Perhaps.
You know, it's hard to say that I'm not still aspiring, because I am, and I think probably always will be. At least I hope.
What challenges do you think exist now when it comes to voice acting and acting in comparison to when you first started? Do you think you have the same sort of challenges, or do you think it differs in any way? Or
well, certainly the work of the actor will always be the same, and that's the nice part of it. You're always going to be working on that character, that storyline, trying to find the truth, the personalizations that you can bring to it, your voice that you can say with those words, and you know, that will always be the actor's challenge, is trying to bring themselves, or this is how I view it, other people may see it in another light, but trying to bring themselves authentically to that character, and finding an ability to connect to it and bring it to life in a way that is meaningful and for themselves, but also others, of course. But it has to start, I think, personally. You know, any person can play a part differently, and I think that's what makes it exciting and interesting, is you bring your unique voice to it, and that challenge will always be there, no matter what you're working on, whether it's voiceover, film, television, theater. That voice is always yours, and how to bring it to life through the words of somebody else, the character of somebody else, is the trick of making it your own. Nowadays, we're seeing a lot of new challenges of what is going to be possible once things open. Supposedly here in the States, LA in particular, the industry was starting to open up at the beginning of June. But how are they able to do it? You know, we don't have a lot of great leadership from the top down at this country at the moment. And so I think everyone is waiting to see how this will all shape out. What will be the rules and regulations of being on set? How will we navigate that? Because there's going to be some people that are more freewheeling and feel like, oh, there's nothing to worry about. But you're going to have to work with those that feel that, but also the ones that feel that they need more protections. They need more rules and regulations put in place, that we shouldn't be so willy-nilly with it, and that it will take time to discover how we're able to do it again.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I had meetings yesterday with my representation, my agents and my managers, and just to hear what they're hearing, to see what's coming up, what we need to do as a team to prepare for when things do lift. You know, I'm afraid that it's not going to be a, you know, unveiling and ooh, poof, we're back to the way things were. It's going to be a slow meandering, trying to figure out how this is going to work.
Oh yeah, things aren't going to be the same for quite a long time, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think, you know, history shows that to us as well. So I think the new challenge will be, how do you navigate and still stay creative and still have a creative output during this time, but also as we slowly move into what will be. Sadly, you know, a group of actors that I do an online Zoom workshop with, just play reading, you know, the discussion comes up of, you know, the theater has been slowly dying for a long time. And thankfully, you know, places like New York, Chicago, and in London in particular, but I think all across England and Great Britain, for example, you guys have a very strong culture in it.
We love it.
Yeah, and thank God, because it still keeps it alive, and you know, a lot of projects get brought over here from originating there, and so we get to see, you know, the Royal Theatre come over and bring a project that, oh wow, that's a new take on, you know, Arthur Miller's original classic, and it's like, wow, thank God somebody's still doing it. And you know, unfortunately, that is the reality, is that, you know, unless you're doing some big hit musical, which there's been a lot of great ones, the theater really isn't that same draw, and also it's too expensive. The average person can't spend $500 in a night to go see a show. So even more so now with this, with people not being able to go into theaters. I mean, movie theaters are going to be hit too, but the theater itself as well. You know, the discussions that have been coming up in that group are, what will we be able to do in the theater? How can we keep it alive? So there's a lot of new challenges that we're faced. You know, a friend that's also repped by my same manager, she's also a mentor at the Actors Studio. She just did a film over Zoom.
Really?
So, yeah.
Wow.
And we'll see, you know, how that turns out, but that's the new thing. That's a medium, right?
Yeah.
That's how, I
mean, why not? Why not try these new things? And
you got to keep telling the story. And as we're seeing also the new medias that are out there, you know, even with Quibi and even TikTok, like the short little stories are coming out. Well, okay, how can you do that? There's been tons of podcasts and podcast shows that I've been seeing coming out during this time. And so the demand to, as the actor, create your own in-house voiceover booth. You know, I have a mic, but now I'm thinking, okay, I got to find which closet can I empty out and turn into my, you know.
Why not?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's that time to take a hold of what's possible for yourself.
Definitely.
But also include people. For example, the project that I've been working on and trying to complete is just me, but, you know, how do you interact with other people? There's a great film called Lock, where it's him alone in a car and he's on multiple phone calls. Well, there's other characters that are involved, and so that's voiceover, right? It provides voiceover projects for other people, and I'm trying to do that same thing. So we'll see. There's nothing but possibility. I'd like to look at it that way rather than hindrances. Now that we're, you know, there's only new possibilities, and I think we all just have to start trying them out as opposed to shying away from them. Like
it's definitely the best. It's definitely the best way to look at it. 100%.
Might as well, right? We've got enough problems.
Exactly. Why not? Why not make the most of it and take the time to be creative? The last time you spoke, you said that Mafia III was essentially acting instead of just voice acting, since there was the element of the mocap suit, right? So obviously, like in the last few years, this technology's become a lot more prominent within like high-budget Hollywood productions. With that in mind, could you see smaller budget productions kind of following suit, or do you feel that there's always going to be a need for live shots on location?
I think it will be an artistic choice, right?
Yeah.
Just as we've seen some filmmakers saying, I want to find a way to shoot on film. I don't want to do digital. And that presents challenges. I shot a film, I think the last time we spoke through just Twitter, I was on location shooting a film that was shooting on film.
You mentioned the Western.
Oh, okay. So no, another one after that. But yeah, you know, this project was shot on film, and everyone that was doing it had some experience, but never a full project shooting just on film. So there was, you know, all kinds of new things they had to take a look at. As the actor, you certainly have to be conscious of it as well, because there isn't that ability always to say, let's have another go. Yeah. Because it costs, you know, that much more money every take you do. Exactly, Now, I think it's important the actor should never have that on their mind as they're doing their work, but, you know, you have to be conscious that that's what's happening, because it is costly. So your pre-preparations are that much more important, just as, you know, I became good friends with the cinematographer on this project, and same thing for him of, you know, doing his due diligence in preparation. So I think with what you're saying, of course we're going to have people only expanding that technology and making it more realistic, even easier to shoot an entire film in one room, because you can turn the room into a spaceship. You can turn the room, or, you know, it may be more than a room, but a studio. But yeah, I mean, I think when you see just how, like, say, the major TV shows that all shoot on a studio lot, and they turn an office building into a drugstore, into the living room of a home, all in one set. Well, you're just taking that technology a step further to saying, well, now we don't even have to build it. We'll just put it in digitally. Yeah. Which, you know, as the actor, it has its own challenges as well, because then you have to really take a look at doing your personal work, not only on the character itself, but also where you are. Yeah. Which a lot of actors, you know, may struggle with. It's not an easy thing. I think we may have discussed the driving scenes in Mafia 3 when I'm picking up Lincoln. We're driving around and we're talking. We had a couple long ones, like 5 or 6 pages of dialogue, where we're driving and stopping and turning and then turning right. And, you know, I got the layout of the city and where we were going to be going, and I would go to an empty parking lot and practice. Yeah. You know, coming to a stop, then turning, you know, what are all the things that you do? You look, it's a stick shift truck because it was set in the 70s, well, late 60s, so I'm downshifting, and, you know, all those things to create the reality for myself, which then in turn, hopefully, creates it for the other actors. But I'm sure we'll see, I saw something online the other day of a person, I forget which project it was, but basically this girl walks out. It's a futuristic world, and she gets on an elevator and she goes down, and then she goes to another floor and she gets something to eat. And it was kind of like, I don't know what the project looked like, but, you know, futuristic world. And and then she rides back up, and then she gets on a train, and it all took place. They had like split screen. It all took place in one fairly tiny room, in
Really?
front of a green screen. Yeah, it was. If I can find it, I'll forward it over to you because I'm pretty sure
Oh,
I
please
saw
do,
someone
yeah.
post it on Twitter. But it was really impressive. It looks great. But you know, that will be the new set design. You know,
Okay.
that's people will be building sets digitally. And I wouldn't be surprised if those people who really want to have that authentic feel, just like people say film feels more authentic than digital, will
Yeah.
probably try and make it in real locations.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the story is always the most important thing, right?
Exactly.
And so if you don't have a great story, the bells and whistles are seem to be meaningless to me. It's always exciting to see the new technology and things that they can do, but if you don't got a story that grips me, I tune out pretty quickly. So
Yeah, that's
I
understandable.
hope people never give up on the story first and foremost.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, on that topic, I've spoken to a fair amount of aspiring voice actors, and I think that roles like yours in Mafia III have helped to, I guess, legitimize video games as a real arena for performance. Do you think that there's a sort of stigma within the acting world towards acting for the likes of video games and that sort of thing in as opposed to like films or, you know, television?
Yeah, I mean, certainly one, I think the world is growing a lot of the world within video games, and the culture of it is expanding out to reach a lot more people. I mean, it's always been a huge industry, and it's only growing. And as technology does so, and people see trailers for a video game on TV, and they're like, "Well, what film is that?"
Yeah,
It's not.
exactly.
It's a game.
It's a game,
What?
surprisingly.
Yeah. I think. Well, that's gonna start reaching more people, and if there is the stigma, which I think, you know, only because technology for games, it relied more so on the technology, right? You had originally people would do just the voice acting in a booth, which is it's not easy. It's a whole nother craft within itself. As the actor, you still have to focus on the same things. I believe that's how I approach it, as you would if you're doing a film or a play. You still have to know who you're talking to, what you need, what you want, all those personal things the actor works on. But you also have only the ability to use your voice. And just as great film actors would tell you, they know how to engage with the camera, where just a slight raising of the eyebrow says everything, because it's going to be 60 feet tall on a movie screen when the people finally see it. And
so every little expression means
the great actors really know how to use that. Well, so do the great voiceover actors. You know, watching, I didn't get to do scenes with him, but anytime he was on set, Nolan North, you know, he's a god in the world, and that dude knows what he's doing. He has worked his craft, and you see it. It was inspiring to see where someone who has done the work over and over and over, who does his own personal work, he shows up ready to rock and roll. You know, how someone that has worked the craft knows how to do that. But I know even before I had done just Mafia 3, but it's funny, I was sitting on an airplane, a woman in between me and another woman who turned out to be a very well-known voiceover artist. I won't say her name, just, you know, for anonymity, but she and I was asked, "What do you do?" And then the woman asked me, and I said, "Oh, I'm an actor." "Oh, you guys, do you know each other?" You know, and of course we didn't, but she said, "Well, you know, I'm a voiceover actor." I said, "Oh, well, I look at it as I'm an actor, and I do it in any form." She goes, "Oh, I don't see it like that. That my career is, I just want to do voiceover." And I thought that was really interesting, and I realized one that I was limiting myself to develop a craft further. You know, I think it takes a lot to just do voiceover. Can be a desire for someone. It isn't necessarily mine, but I respect that, and I also learned a lot from hearing her talk about it, because I realized there are things that I was leaving out and didn't give enough attention to as just a voiceover artist.
So it was a bit of like an eye-opener for you?
Yeah, oh, for sure. And probably broke my stigma of, you know, well, I'm not just a voice, you know, I'm an actor.
Yeah.
And that was my own ego, probably, too. But it's, you know, I think it's like painting. You can paint with watercolors, you can paint with oils, acrylics, but you start with the same general techniques of brush strokes. You may have to change them slightly differently depending on which medium, but it's the same thing. I think you have to know who you're speaking to, what you need, and what your purpose is, and what you want to say with whatever words you're given. Now, sometimes in the commercial world, it's just make it exciting and sound enjoyable. Sell it.
Exactly. Sell it.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Because people make a great living doing that, and I think that's primarily what she's done. And, you know, I learned a great deal from hearing her talk about it and realized I had been kind of limiting myself. So there's certainly stigmas, I think, over time, because the technology is only getting better. We were already seeing some of our great film and TV actors doing video games, and it's only because they're seeing that there is a great world of characters and well, a whole nother world of storylines and things that you can't always do in a film. I mean, for me, Mafia III, a 5-act storyline with, I mean, more than 3 possible endings depending on how you play it.
Oh yeah.
Like, what film gives you that?
Exactly.
Just the cutscenes.
Whole expansion.
Oh yeah, huge. I mean, just the cutscenes of Donovan alone are, I think, close to 50 minutes long.
Yeah.
You know, what actor in a film gets, unless they're the only person on there, gets that much screen time?
Exactly. Even the main protagonist doesn't get that long.
Exactly. And that's, you know, I think that's got a lot of people's attention. It does take a lot more work, a lot longer to complete these things, but who doesn't want to be working for long?
Exactly.
The little job security. Actors aren't used to that.
On the note of voice actors, especially those like seeking work in the video game industry, not many of them have been to college or taken classes, so they wouldn't really know where to start. So, obviously you can only speak from experience, but what advice could you give to someone looking to step into that world, or anything that you think that maybe they should avoid, or, you know, any just general advice for someone that wants to get into the industry?
First and foremost, find any way you can to do it. You know, if it's building a booth in your own home, turning a closet into one, getting yourself a mic, finding the, you know, whether it's a commercial or a film even, or a game you like, take some of that script and just use it, practice it, develop, see what works, what doesn't. You know, it's your craft, it's nobody else's, and so you're gonna hear a lot of different people tell you a lot of different things. But I think it's also important to take some classes, get in front of other people, because you're gonna have to do that when you are hired and have to do it professionally.
Confidence for it,
and that's exactly right. You can only build it through doing it. Confidence isn't just a snap of a fingers. It's developed. And you want to be confident when you walk into a room and you're working with other actors, if you're on a game and you're doing performance capture, or even when you're stepping into the booth in front of just a few people to record it for a commercial. You know, if you get lucky enough, a lot of people have the ability to do a lot of stuff just from home, but you want to have the confidence when you hit send and you know that you've done the best you can and it's going out to them. I think it's invaluable to get into some form of acting class just to see what it is an actor takes a look at. I think it will bring a lot to any project you do, whether it's a commercial or, you know, getting to stretch out in a character like John Donovan and really get to do a lot more acting. You got to know what it means to take a look at those things, and it may never be all that you do, but just as I learned on that flight that I was limiting yourself, don't limit yourself.
Yeah.
Open up to as much as you can, and read, you know, take a look at some of the acting books, you know, take a look at who are your favorite actors. Well, where did they study? What did they do? You know, you don't have to.
We've got the internet now as well, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, there are those master classes out there too. You can do it from home. But I think getting into a class with other people and hearing how other people are taking a look at it, and a teacher that has done it, you know, it doesn't have to be the end all be all. Every teacher is limited as well, but just to get a bit of perspective, you know, don't limit yourself.
Okay. Obviously, with traditional acting, you stand in front of a camera and wardrobe, and aside from like post-production, the end result is basically what you saw and did on set. But with Mafia III, of course, it was all digital. You were in the mocap suit, where you were the face and voice of this virtual doppelganger, I guess. Was it kind of surreal to see like this twin stealing your face and your words, and just kind of seeing this alternate version of yourself? How did that feel? Yeah,
I mean, certainly I was just kind of blown away with the world that they created, because it was so full, and so the amount of work that goes into creating that, let alone the doppelganger of me, it was certainly stunning at first. I remember being blown away that it really did have the appearance, but I guess in a way it's also similar to film, because though you do it, you don't really know how it's coming across, and you can't really be worrying about that as the actor. And so when you see it on the day, it's often, you know, months or years later, and you're like, oh, look at how he did that. That's interesting, and it's just you. So there's similarities in that, but certainly I think I was more in awe of it, because I didn't do that. I didn't brush each eyelid or eyelash, and, you know, the hair, and, you know, all the shading, and I mean, it's the amount of work that must have gone into that. Oh, it's incredible. Insane. It is incredible. And so in that regard, all I could say, I was just in awe of every aspect of it. It's just incredible what they are able to do, and thank God, because otherwise it would just be a voice floating around with a stick figure if I was in charge. I couldn't be doing that. So, it brings it to life when you can get a close-up view and really see into someone's eyes on a video game. You know, that tells the story tenfold, and they're only getting better. I mean, that's why they did the re-release of the Mafia thing. I mean, they're trying to update it and bring in the new technology so that, you know, they can enhance, and they are. So I mean, it was so immersive. Like you because of how good the facial animations were, you could really feel connected with the character. It felt almost human. It's kind of uncanny. Yeah. So yeah, it's really, really brilliant. For sure. On that subject, have you had a chance to play Mafia 3 yet? Because I remember last time you mentioned not being much of a gamer. So have you taken advantage of this quarantine to kind of join us nerds in this like world of video games? Well, I've been nerding out in my own ways. You know, it's still not something that I do. I don't have a console. So if I am ever playing, it's with friends that have it. But that's been the real joy is, you know, Mafia was very generous to everyone that worked on the project. And so I've over the years had copies that I could give to friends, or my neighbors, few doors down. I always hear them playing their games, and I'm like, hey, do you guys Mafia? And they're like, oh yeah, yeah. I was like, do you have Mafia 3? Oh no, here you go, and let me see you play it. Let's talk about it. And I've been running a Zoom like cocktail hour. Another thing that I do is to make some money.
You've got to keep yourself occupied.
Yeah, I bartend, so I do a happy hour once a week where bring people together, teach them cocktails, history of the cocktails, and then generally talk about what's happening. It's kind of like a late night show. We bring in some music. We've done all kinds of wild things, but one of the things that comes up often is a couple of the good friends are big gamers, and some of them work for the companies I've worked for, so they come on, and there's always talk of different characters, and also the character I did, and hearing people's excitement of hearing a line, or just talking about the different parts of the game. I get a kick out of that. I've seen all of the cutscenes, and I certainly enjoy that. And I like when people post stuff and I see them, playing the game and interacting with Donovan and all their reactions to it. But I think
people love the character.
Yeah, it's very flattering. I do too. So we have something in common. If they do, but just like I don't go back and watch all my films, I guess it's kind of the same in a sense. Although a game, there's a lot more to interact with than watching a film. But yeah, it's just never been something I've engaged in, and so to create it, I just have yet to do it.
I mean, everyone for their own thing. That's why.
Yeah, I'll have to get a console one of these days then.
Oh no, definitely. I mean, I'm on. Speaking of people loving the character, I don't know if you saw the comments on the last time we spoke. I mean, people saying extremely nice things. The video recently gained a little bit more traction, getting a few more comments.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I know you said that in that tweet. I'll have to go back and take a look. I get things in my inbox, or little comments, or things posting on Twitter and Instagram, and it's always extremely flattering. I mean,
people loved your performance. So
yeah.
Moving away from Mafia, you tend to appear in like thrillers, or at least fairly intense roles, presumably because you nail it every time. But if you could take a risk and play something completely different, what would you try? Like maybe perhaps a musical or a James Dean biopic?
Oh, I'd love to do that. The musical world is, I do enjoy music. I play some guitar and piano myself, although I grew up with musicians who are real players, so I never consider myself that. I can carry a tune, and I'm not bad. I really enjoy it. Had a band here in LA for about a year or 2 years, just to get out there and try it out and perform live, and just to have that experience. But as far as musicals, I would never turn it down, and the challenge to give it a go, especially if I connected with the story and the characters. And but I would really have to get back to work in my study of voice and practice, because the people that make a career and a living out of being in musical theater, that's what they do. They work on their voice, and they have to work on the story, of course, and the acting, but you gotta be able to carry a tune. And not that I couldn't, but I would have to do some work for sure. I have such respect and hold them in high regard if they can, because it does require a lot of work and training.
Oh, definitely.
And I was fortunate to have that in schooling from some great teachers, but they've kept it up their entire life, and then that's what they do and work on daily. And I really admire it, and I try to do that on my acting work. But I would have to really take that on, and I would like the challenge, but I can't say I could just step in and do it right now. I wouldn't feel like I could do justice to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I feel like I'm at a point where I will try to say yes to anything that I feel I can connect to and do. But certainly those more quote unquote intense roles do seem to be offered more often, probably because people see that I've done it and they feel confident. It is a show business, and they have to make sure that what they're putting together would sell. But I like stretching out and having fun and being wacky and a little bit more on the comedic side. It's not something I get the opportunity to do often, but I could have a lot of fun there. And ask my fiance, I'm a weirdo and full of quirky little things that maybe not everyone sees, certainly not in the roles that I've been able to do.
Yeah.
But that could be a lot of fun.
So if you could, you like to stretch out and do something more comedic.
Oh, of course, absolutely.
Oh, okay. Another question. Are there any projects that you've done in the last 4 years since we last spoke that you're particularly proud of, or you'd like to share, or tell people to go look at, or just anything that you'd like to share?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the one that I'm really anticipating coming out is still in post-production. It's a independent feature film that I was able to shoot with a great, very small indie crew here in LA. It will be coming out hopefully once, in particular, the quarantine stops. And I really look forward to seeing that, because it was a very personally charged project with a director that was telling his personal story as well, with its own twists on it. But I play the lead opposite a girl named Brianna Ebigan, and she and I really worked very well together, and it was a treat to be able to do that. And we're just, indie projects are tough. They, rely on everyone's sweat, blood, and tears.
Oh, yeah.
And extra hours, and not a lot of pay, but then you put it together, you get it all in the can, and now it's up to them to get it cut and finished. And I know they're working very diligently to do so, but you're always scraping to get that little extra backing financially to get it to where you want, and find people to donate their time sometimes, and in particular in the post-production world, that takes time. So I can't throw out a working title because I don't know what they're working with, and I don't want to say anything that would lead people to believe it's one thing or another, but
Exactly,
I really look forward to seeing that come out.
Well, I mean, once it does, if you send me a title,
Of course.
once it's all decided on, I'll put it in the description and people can take a look at that.
Oh, you got it, of course.
Is there anything else?
No, there isn't. Like I said, waiting to see what happens when the quarantine lifts and if we can get back out there. Waiting for a couple other short films to be edited that I did last year, and a lot of work in the theater in between when we spoke as well. And of course,
Oh, yeah.
that's in the ethers now, so that's how theater goes, and that's why I like it. But I'm trekking along. I'm sure there's something in those 4 years I'm not thinking of, but the ones that are on my mind are the ones I've mentioned.
Okay. Speaking of theatre, I did forget a question actually. You seem to have quite a prolific and successful stage career. I didn't actually know this before. So it seems to at least an untrained eye that theatre is some point between film and motion capture, and it requires a lot of imagination to put yourself in that role on stage. Do you think there's some parallels that you found between your theatre experience and your mocap experience?
Oh, absolutely. As soon as we started working, I felt the release and freedom that you feel when you're on stage. one, Kate Saxon, the woman who was the director, she does a lot of theater, and she lives in London, and she's an incredible director. You know, it was great to be having her at the helm, because I think we had that connection of the theater, and could speak like-mindedly about things. But certainly just being on set and realizing it's kind of like theater in the round. No matter where I turn, I'm going to be captured. I'm not trying to play to camera. I don't have to worry about lighting. We don't have to worry about new lighting setups once this scene is done.
A lot more freedom.
Oh, a lot more freedom. And then, of course, like you said, your imagination is key. And if you can't create that world for yourself, it's going to be really hard to feel free and play. And so I was very fortunate to have that training, I think, because it's incredibly important. And if you can't do that for yourself, it will, I think, feel stifling. And, you know, you're handed a foam block that is your glass to drink out of. You better be able to create what glass that is for yourself. Otherwise, you're just going to feel dumb holding a foam block.
Gotta make it work.
You gotta make it work. But I don't know that I would say my theater career is prolific, though I appreciate the compliment. But maybe in time, in years to come.
I mean, to some.
Yeah, maybe to some. My
to
mom,
some.
for sure. But yeah, it's, you know, I think any career in any form of performance or art in general is creating a body of work. And so I hope to, you know, be able to work until I can't walk, and look back and see that I've been a part of projects that meant as much to me as things like Mafia. But, you know, try to stay open to all possibilities, and, you know, I welcome all possibilities out there if anyone's listening. So, yeah, always looking for the possibility.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me back. And
maybe we can talk again in like another 4 or 5 years.
Sure, absolutely. It'd be my pleasure.
Oh, it's been lovely talking. Okay.
Yeah, Chelsea, you too. Thanks so much.
Thank you to everyone that is still here. I really hope you enjoyed that video. It was a little bit longer than anything else that I've really uploaded. So yeah, check out the description. I will leave Lane's details to his website, his Instagram, his Twitter. Go show him some love. And I will see you in my next video, where I interview the infamous Vito Scaletta, also known as the lovely gentleman Rick Pasqualone. I think that's how I pronounce his last name, but he has had a lot of major roles. He is, you know, he's a legend in the industry. So I look forward to bringing you that as well. If you are looking forward to that, go ahead and subscribe or hit that sexy little bell button, and you will be informed when my next video comes out. Thank you very much for watching again. Thank you again to Lane for agreeing to do this, and I hope you enjoyed. Good night.